Hi everyone, this is Elena of the Witches Box, and I'm here today with another episode of Witch Booktube. And today we're going to be talking about a book called Tea Leaf Reading for Beginners, Your Fortune in a Teacup by Caroline Dow. There it is. So this is part of a beginner series that Llewellyn has been doing for a while. There are a couple of books already in this series. I'm not quite sure how long they've been doing it for. And I've read another book in this series that I really just didn't think did a good job, but this book really did. And in fact, this is a book that we included in our September 2020 Tasseomancy box that we sent out. And I'm coming to you today after we did our deep dive for that box, and Caroline Dow joined us for that, which was fantastic. A couple of things, because it's me and this is how I roll. Llewellyn, I love you so much, yet this design really, I'm not, don't judge a book by its cover. We've talked about this in previous episodes of the Witch Booktube, but I mean, we could have done better here. I really think that we could have done better here. That is not to take away at all from the book, because the book is fantastic. I bought a bunch and we sent them out to our subscribers for September. That is how much I love this book. But you know what I'm saying? I don't know. There's so much that can have been done here. That said, let me really quickly read Carolyn's bio, and then we'll talk about this book, we'll talk about Tasseomancy, and we'll talk a little bit about our deep dive. So, Caroline Dow has been a tea leaf reader and herbalist for 30 years and conducts popular workshops on tea leaf reading all over the country. She is the author of 15 books and is the owner and manager of a successful herbal mail order company. You can visit her blog online at www.carolinedowbooks.com, and she also sells her herbs through there as well. So, tea leaf reading, the inspiration for that box came, and I don't remember now how and who and what time and whatever, but you know that Olivia Graves of The Witch of Wonderlust works for us and is also someone that we are a total fan of, and I know most of you are a fan of as well. She is working for us, and I think that in a conversation, well, I know, and as you all know, she loves tea. Tea is her thing, is one of her things. And her and Elliot, I think, brainstormed having a tea box, or maybe I don't know. I know that it sort of originated in some conversation about bringing that in. I don't know. I don't remember exactly, but I know she was an influence on that. And for that Tasseomancy box, which I think by the time this video comes out, we're sold out of already, Olivia blended and created a tea recipe for us, and we put them in our Witches Apothecary boxes or bags and send them out with that box. In that box was also a gorgeous teacup, but also this book. And this book is definitely for beginners, but it is so in-depth. It gives you so much information. And another book that she wrote that I'll link to down below takes this and goes further, so that you have at least 2 books out there that give you quite a lot of information on reading tea leaves and how to sink yourself into that practice and really learn and move forward with it. We sent this box out in September. I picked this topic for September because we're in the Northern Hemisphere moving into fall. And for me, tea leaf reading isn't my primary, secondary, or even tertiary divination practice. But there's something so nourishing about the idea of, for me, the idea that you drink your tea first and then you flip it over with your tea leaves to see what, there's something so, I don't know, deeply intimate about that process. So that was part of all the things and the ingredients that went into that box. In this book, Caroline gives you a bit of history behind tea leaf reading. Let me read you the table of contents. The history. She gives you a really good primer on how to get started, what to get, what types of teas there are and why, the interpretations, sample readings. So you have these great, what feel to me like case studies, sample readings. There are herbal infusions and decoctions, the difference between tea leaves, and herbal infusions or tisanes, and when you would use one or the other, or how you can combine them both, having tea parties. She talks about so much, the magic of tea, interpretation of symbols. She talks about animals, architecture, birds, body parts, playing cards, clothing and personal items, common objects, flowers, geometric shapes, musical instruments, natural and supernatural world, numbers and letters, all of these different types of symbols that might show up for you in a tea leaf reading. and she gives you guidelines as to what those could mean. She also gives you guidelines as to how to do a reading for another person as well as how to do one for yourself. It was really a lovely, lovely book. There's, of course, the history of tea, tea for what ails you. So there's also teas for your health, tea for the zodiac. I mean, there's so much in this book. It's an easy read. It goes by really quick, really informative. And then we had our gathering, and she shared a little bit with us in terms of the teacups that she uses, favorites and not favorites, the whole process of having maybe a group of favorite teacups that she uses, and then when she reads for someone else, allowing the querent to pick their own teacup to use, and how that also informs the reading. It was really quite lovely. If this is something I think that you would like to try as a divinatory practice, this book is probably a must-have. I gave this a 4 because it's beginner, but it sets you up for the practice. But it's also a reference book that you would keep with you long into your journey in this practice as you get better. I think that over time, we talked a little bit about this in our live gathering with her. She talked about it, but we talked about it as a group as well. The idea that over time, the symbols that come to you and your relationship with those symbols begin to have specific meanings for you. Things that show up over and over and over again are definitely influenced by you, but as well as the person that you're reading for. For some, an arrow might mean one thing, but for you over time, it may mean something else. So we talked about and dived into the idea of developing your own language with the symbols. So reference books like this are great to get you started and to get you kind of maneuvering through the types of symbols and that you might get, but also what they mean. But eventually in your practice, you begin to develop not only memorization of what those symbols tend to mean for you, but you start to develop your own language with the tea. It's really very beautiful. In here, she also goes into things like when you have a variety of symbols that show up in a teacup, that you don't necessarily look at all of them. So she gives you a little bit of a hierarchy as to what you would look to first as opposed to something else. The bigger image, the bigger symbol tends to be what you would give the most attention to, and so on. There's a lot of really practical information in terms of how to suss out those things for yourself when you're looking at a teacup with a lot of symbols. Types of questions that you might ask the tea leaves, the types of questions that you might ask someone that you're doing a reading for in order to continue to get the information rolling, the reading rolling, reading people's body language, adding the whole spectrum of what you would be observing and sensing in your reading for the person, so not just the tea. So much. There was really so much. This is really a great foundation book that I think would also serve to continue to inform the way you read for a while to come, if not the entirety of your relationship with tea leaf reading. I also really love that it's an ancient thing. It's been around for so long. There's something very quaint and it's Victorian, right? You use Victorian teacups. There's something quaint about it in that way. I really enjoyed it. It was very lovely to read, very sweet to dive into. Also, I felt really good for this time of year where really now I'm back to my hot drinks, and so there's something really cozy about it as well. So it's Tea Leaf Reading for Beginners, Your Fortune in a Teacup by Caroline Dell. She did a lovely job. We are now talking about the subscribers to the box, trying to coordinate a little virtual tea party so that we can all get together, drink our tea, and do readings with each other in our Zoom. So that's something that people can do as well. I think that that's a great group activity. She talks about doing things like that, not necessarily virtually, but because at this point we're doing so much virtually, you can adapt some of these parties to do virtually as well. I definitely recommend it. Beautiful. She did a beautiful job. Looking forward to reading her other books. I will link to her other books down below as well. And yeah, that's it. If you are a tea leaf reader, I'd love to hear from you. I'd also love to hear of other books that you might think would be great for this topic. If you're a tea reader, how long have you been doing it? Tell me more. I want to hear. And that's it. We will see you next week. Thank you for joining me for this review, and take care. Bye.